This video is all about starting to make lace on the pillow. We will start with cloth stitch. We will begin this lace pattern by hanging our wound bobbins on the pillow. I will place a pin in each of the 5 dots on top of the pattern. It will help to angle the pins away from yourself. I want to put a 6th pin at the next pin dot on the left. With the pins in place, I will put 1 pair of bobbins on each pin. The bobbins on the top 5 dots will be our passives, and they will travel parallel to each other. I am hanging the passive bobbins from left to right, but the opposite would be fine as well. The last bobbin hung on the left pair is the worker pair. Remember from the previous video on preparing the materials, I put more thread on this pair of bobbins since it will weave through all the rest. Now that all the bobbins are in place, we can make a cloth stitch. Move all the bobbins out of the way except for the 2 leftmost pairs. I will tell you how to work the bobbins in several different ways. The first is by numbering the bobbins. If we place a number on each bobbin from left to right, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first motion is moving bobbin 2 to the right over bobbin 3. The numbers reset back to 1 through 4 each time we place the bobbins back on the pillow. Next, we will take bobbin 2 and 4 to the left 1 space. Last, we will again move bobbin 2 to the right over bobbin 3. We are finished making a cloth stitch between these 2 pairs. You can move the leftmost pair of bobbins off to the side and bring in another pair from the right. With the cloth stitch, we always want to be sure we have 4 bobbins in front of us to work with. Now I will instruct you with technical terms and hand movements. First, we will cross with 1 hand. When we say cross, that means move 1 bobbin or more to the right. Next, we will twist with 2 hands. When we say twist, that means move a bobbin or more to the left. Last, we will cross with 1 hand again, moving the bobbin to the right. Again, we will move the left bobbins aside and bring in the next pair of bobbins from the right. We will continue to make cloth stitches with 4 bobbins until our worker pair makes its way to the right. Cross, twist, cross. All finished with that cloth stitch. Bring in the last pair to work. Cross, twist, cross. Let's twist the worker and pin to finish this row. Now that we are to the end of the row, we will need to twist the worker pair twice. Remember, because I said twist, we will move 1 or more bobbins to the left. Pick up the right hand bobbin and move it to the left twice. To finish the row, we need to place a pin under the worker pair. Move the worker above the dot on the top right hand side. Place the pin through the dot, angled in towards the work. Next, we need to ensure our threads are even, which will make everything easier to work, and tension the thread. Because the workers have traveled more of a distance than the passives, I need to let the threads out on the workers. To tension the thread, I will hold the worker in place and run my hand over the passive bobbins in a downward motion. Sometimes it's necessary to gently tug each bobbin, but since we are at the beginning, it's easier to tension. To continue working cloth stitches on the next row, we will need to push all the bobbins to the side except for the 4 we will be using. Even though our worker pair is now traveling to the left, we will work the stitches in the same way. The first motion is bobbin 2 to the right over bobbin 3. Next, we will take bobbin 2 and 4 over bobbin 1 and 3. Last, we will again move bobbin 2 to the right over bobbin 3. Move the left-hand pair to the side and bring a new pair from the left. First, we will cross, moving to the right with one hand. Next, we will twist, moving to the left with 2 hands. Last, we will cross, moving to the right with one hand. Move the right-hand pair out of the way and bring in a new pair from the left. Continue making cloth stitches using 4 pairs until your worker pair is the leftmost pair. Bring the last pair in on this row, cross, twist, cross. Now we will need to twist the worker pair twice. You will need to move the right hand bobbin over the left 2 times. Move the pair above the next dot and place a pin. Don't forget to extend the thread on your worker pair and tension all the threads. Tension at the end of each row to be sure all threads lay flat. It becomes harder to fix an issue with a thread if ignored and could cause you to over-tension at the end. Let's go over the movements one more time using numbers. Move bobbin 2 to the right over bobbin 3. Take bobbin 2 and 4 to the left over bobbin 1 and 3. And move bobbin 2 to the right over bobbin 3. Move the left pair to the side and bring in a new from the right. Using bobbin lace terms, we will cross, moving to the right with one hand. Twist, moving to the left with 2 hands. And finally cross, moving to the right with one hand. Move the left pair out of the way and bring in a new from the right. Continue using the cloth stitch through the rest of the bobbins on this row. Cross, twist, cross. Bring in a new pair from the right, cross, twist, cross. Don't forget that you need to twist twice on the worker pair and pin on the right hand side. Extend the thread on your workers and tension your threads. You will find that by now it is easier to tension the threads without pulling the bobbins out of place. They are now well anchored by the cloth stitch. Practice working the cloth stitch across this row by yourself. Pay attention to each element of the stitch, twisting the workers at the end and pinning them in place. Next, I want to talk about mistakes. Since bobbin lace is like weaving the threads in and out of each other, it makes undoing mistakes very easy. Be sure to pay close attention to the thread so you can identify an error. What if you were halfway through the row and realize you forgot to twist the worker pair before pinning? To take out the cross stitch, you must make the movements backwards. So I will untwist with one hand, uncross with two hands, and untwist again with one hand. You will continue doing this until you get to the spot where you believe the error was made. Again, untwist, uncross, and untwist. For the last pairs, untwist, uncross, and untwist. Now we can check to be sure we have twists on the worker pair and continue with the normal cloth stitch. I want to show you what it looks like if there is an extra twist on one of the passive pairs. Remember, for cloth stitch, the passives should move parallel to each other down the pattern with no twists. I will purposefully make a mistake on this purple pair to show you what it looks like and how to fix it. As we are making bobbin lace, we want to pay extra attention to the pattern and threads. You can already see the extra twist stands out because it should not be there. As we move in closer, you should easily be able to see there is an error in the lace that we should go back and fix. We need to unlace the same as we did earlier. We will make the movements for the cloth stitch backwards. Untwist, uncross, and untwist. We will do this until we get to the spot with the error. Untwist, uncross, untwist. One more pair. Untwist, uncross, untwist. Now we can take out the mistaken twist and continue making the cloth stitch through the rest of the row. Instead of skipping ahead, I will speed up the video for the rest of this pattern so you can see the bobbin lace made. Remember, cross, twist, cross, all the way across the pattern until you get to the end of the row. Twist the worker pair twice, pin under the worker pair. Tension the threads and then start working towards the other side. Eventually, as you make your way down the pattern, you may need to also let out additional thread from the passive bobbins. Keeping all the bobbins even just helps with the ease of making lace. That was the last row of the pattern. As we move closer to the pattern, you can really see the threads and admire how all the threads run parallel with no twists. There are no errors in the working of this pattern. Let's finish the pattern. The first thing we will need to do to end the pattern is let out threads from the bobbins. You can do this by extending the thread using the hitch, or take the hitch completely off the bobbin and unwind the thread. You will want to let out a lot of thread. Next, we will cut the thread off the bobbins. I would suggest leaving more of a length of thread than I did here. More thread will make it easier to work the upcoming knot. We will tie the knot with 2 pairs of bobbins and place a pin between the 2 pairs under the line of the last row. The pin will help to get the knot exactly where we want it. I am making an overhand knot with 4 threads together. I will make a loop and then pull the end through. Before tightening the knot, I will place a loop of the knot over the pin. This will ensure the knot ends on the pin where it will be snug against the lace. With the loop of the knot around the pin, I will pull the tail of the thread to tighten the knot. You may need to hold your finger on top of the pin to hold it in place. I will do the same for the next 2 pairs. Pin just between the 2 pairs beneath the last row line. Make a loop, pull the end through that loop, and then ensure the loop is over the pin so that you can then pull the knot tight. We will do the same steps for the last knot. Place a pin between the 2 pairs of threads. Make a loop with the thread and pull the end of the thread through the loop. Next, you will put the loop over the pin and pull the tail of the thread until the knot is in place. With sharp scissors, cut the tassels to the desired length. Last, we will remove the pins. On a larger piece of lace, I may remove all the top, bottom, and then the side pins. But with a small piece like this, I will remove every other pin to give the thread time to relax. Of course, this has everything to do with the type of thread you are using and the amount of tension you applied when making the lace. You don't want to over-tension. This will cause your lace to curl. Curling is not an error. You can always partially repin your lace and apply water, letting it dry overnight. With extreme curling, you may need to use starch. Using different colors for each pair of bobbins can be helpful because you can really see the path of each thread. Notice how all the passives are running down the pattern parallel to each other. Your next steps will be continuing to work this pattern until you are comfortable with the cloth stitch and finish a piece with no errors.